Thank you very much, Edgar, and a very good afternoon to all our digital audience, wherever you are joining us from, on this interface talk show that happens every Friday from midday. It's always a great pleasure to be here, and I hope you've had a good week. And times are very challenging. It's been a long drought in the whole country. The temperatures continue to soar. Part of what is a sign of our mismanagement of the environment. And so we can prepare for hard times with food becoming scarce. Welcome to today's Interface Show.
Okay. Doctor, before we even delve into the discussion of what is happening in Senegal or the peaceful transition that has been seen here, I want to start off on rather a note by one of our viewers here who requested that you talk about the plight of the road cleaners. These people have striked now, this is the second time, or demonstrated, showing their grievances. They receive a pay of not more than 150,000 per month, but they have not received this remuneration for the last 6 months. And they came out the first time, protested, walked to Parliament, and Speaker Anita Among spoke to them and assured them that they were to get their remunerations very soon. Time has gone down the road, they have not received their remunerations. They are back on the streets saying there's something that needs to be done. Doctor, what do you think about the plight of these people?
Well, you see, it's not just the people who work for KCCA that are in trouble. There are many people who are not receiving their pay, and it's really very worrying how you expect thousands of people that live literally hand to mouth. Because if you are earning 150,000 or even 300,000 shillings in a month, and you have to pay your rent, you have to pay for your food, you have a family to look after, you have transportation costs, you have health care costs, there is absolutely no way you can spread this little money, even when it comes on time, to cover these costs. So when it doesn't come at all, I mean, it's an unbelievable crisis that goes on in the lives of all these, many people, and most of them are women fending for their families.
Yes.
Most of them single moms, because the men have long run away
yes.
from their responsibilities.
Yeah.
So it's really very, very sad and annoying that you can have this kind of a situation, not because there is no money to pay them, but because we have totally different priorities.
Because the money is even small, you would say.
It's small or big, it is budgeted. So there is money that is budgeted for these activities. But because we run obviously a cash economy, they distribute what is collected by the revenue authority, which is in itself challenged, because they expect revenue authority to collect much more than it can collect. In fact, I have been seeing on social media already that the traders, the business community,
Yes.
is also raging and may be beginning a protest on the 8th of April. And I support them, because the tax burden in this country is crazy and killing businesses. You are killing the chicken that lays the eggs. So on the one hand, there is huge taxation And I have had a lot of time to talk about this in my previous campaigns, that, it's totally misdirected, because if you want greater revenue, you don't have to raise taxes, because there won't be consumers. Taxes are paid by consumers.
Yeah.
So the people who would be consuming and therefore paying taxes are these people you are not paying their salaries. So they cannot consume. So you cannot raise tax. And then they try to put taxes higher for the few that are raising the tax. And the crisis continues. So this is, I think, an example of a complete failure of management of an economy and the state by the Museveni junta.
Aren't you exaggerating by the use of failure?
Well, call it another word. That's, in fact, as polite a description as I can find. Because, you have, and I said the problem is misplaced priorities. Because while these thousands of workers who earn little and it's not paid is going on like that, money is being paid to areas that one would not expect. We've been seeing the opulent expenditure in Parliament. The opulent expenditure in State House. Unbelievable expenditure that goes on daily in State House. The opulent expenditure, you've seen, there was thousands upon thousands of people invited to feast in Kololo on public funds, while you are not paying your statutory, mandatory obligations. A salary is mandatory. It's not, so it should not bargain for priority with other expenses. You must first pay what you owe before you consider other expenditure. That's not the case. So this is...
They're not the only government employees that have taken a while without receiving payment.
Precisely, that's what I...
So one would say it's not really about them. It's just about how a country is struggling, where a government is struggling financially.
It's not struggling, it's not a struggle for resources. It's a question of how the resources are allocated. I'm telling you that in ordinary situations,
yes,
you don't spend anything before you pay your obligations, which is your salaries, which is even your debts, because the unpaid debts in this country of people who supplied to government goods or services and are not paid year upon year, who have been also driven out of business because they haven't been paid. And yet they have to keep on running their business, paying rent, paying workers, paying this, when they delivered to government and government didn't pay them. So these should be the priorities that are not followed. Instead, the priority is the opulent expenditure of Mr. Museveni. State House, where he stays, it's not the office, it's not the work of the people of Uganda, actually. It is his donations to buy support, like you see, paying politicians and so on, that is priority number one. And that is not only disgusting, but it's really criminal. It's criminal to treat citizens like that. But again, you come back to the same old question, what do you do? Because they are the Alpha and Omega. Nobody can intervene. Who would intervene? The people that should intervene on behalf of those people are their representatives who themselves are a problem. So it's a conspiracy of the elites to live in comfort at the expense of the population. And that's why I have said time over and over again that the solution for this is for that population to turn the tables.
You're meaning demonstration?
To turn,
like to
turn the tables whichever way. I don't know whether you've ever seen this, you know, picture that, you know, depicts the situation of citizens carrying their leaders,
Yes,
where
I have seen it.
you see all these people bent, of course emaciated and bent,
Yes.
with the table sitting on top of them, and the leaders with their chairs seated on top of that table, enjoying a feast, you know, sharing chicken and so on top of these citizens that are carrying them. And it says all it takes is for these citizens to stand up and the table falls. And then they can have their share of what they deserve in their country. So people must stand up firmly and say enough is enough. Lining up before a speaker of parliament who is heading an institution that is totally corrupt is you know is a contradiction. It's a contradiction in terms. It's a waste of time. Spending time to walk to a place which is part of your problem.
That's where they have to go.
To seek for a solution where your problem lies is a contradiction in terms. So, but anyway, I must express my, sympathy to not only the KCCA workers, and this is partly, I have been arguing with my brother Mulodi, the elected leader of Kampala, who has no power. All this is going on. These are his people. They cry to him, but he says, now what can I do? Because his hands are tied at the back. And so the question is, so I wonder what that office therefore,
is doing.
helps to do, This is why we must focus really on a revolution in this country.
Okay, that is retired Colonel Dr. KIZZA Besigye. 21 minutes past 12 midday. We are still watching. You're still watching the Interface show. It runs from now up to 2 p.m. Let's go to Senegal, Doctor. You have been there recently, and you're one of the people who went to actually try to check in on the Osman Sonkos and his colleagues who were incarcerated. A few weeks down the road, they were released, and the country went to the polls. As we speak today, the colleague that you would say was supported by Sonko, who is Basiru Faye. What do you think about this young person, 44 years, taking power, and the revolution that is just happening in Senegal?
You see, the thing is, the people of Africa must have great lessons to learn from Senegal. And the greatest lesson of which is that people get what they fight for. They don't get what they deserve. Citizens will never get what they deserve. They get what they fight for.
Yes.
It is, and it's not just citizens. It's everywhere. It's said that in business you don't get what you deserve. You get what you bargain for. Yes. So even for citizens, you really get what you fight for, or you bargain for, if you like. And the people of Senegal have been demonstrating that. not just against this, fellow President Macky Sall. In fact, there was a big struggle to bring Macky Sall into office itself. Not just Macky Sall, there was a big struggle to bring Abdullahi Wade, whom Macky Sall replaced. And Abdullahi Wade later on turned around and wanted to stay firm in the chair, wanted to amend the constitution, wanted to do all other terrible things. The people came back and said, over our dead bodies, we did not bring you to do that. And they fought with Abdullahi Wade until they threw him out and brought Macky Sall. Macky Sall started exactly the same antics as Abdullahi Wade. He wanted to extend himself. People fought, and many died.
Of course.
Because people here think that maybe because there is no military ruler there, that things were easier. No, it took a lot of fight.
There's still many that are incarcerated today.
Yes, I believe they will be released after the swearing in on Tuesday. On I think it will be on Tuesday. So the people have fought for the changes they need in Senegal continuously. It's not a one-off. Even so, what it demonstrates is that even when you fight for a leader to come to office and that leader gets there, don't go back and sleep. Because what it has shown is that indeed people should be expected to be selfish and to be greedy. That should be the expectation. That every leader will be selfish and greedy. What their employer, the one who gives them the job to work for you, it's incumbent upon you, the population, to make sure that this greedy leader does not steal from you or misuse your own resources. You must be vigilant continuously to make sure that they are serving you as they should. And when they start faltering, that you are on them, you hold them firmly and say, no, we will not allow you to do that. And that's what the people of Senegal have been demonstrating. In fact, Senegal has never had a military government. Yeah. And I think in part because their people are militant. They don't allow people to joke around with their rights, with their freedoms, with their power. They fight for it continuously. And the other element which I think one needs to take note of in the Senegal situation is the struggle of the state institutions. Because all these leaders try to capture all state institutions so that they serve them. They answer their wishes. And we've seen in Senegal that the state institutions have fought also to remain independent. Not entirely, but they have fought. So the judiciary, for example, has taken stand that is definitely laudable. They objected, ruled out of order the president's attempt to postpone the election to December. Yes. That's what he had declared after they had stopped him from changing the constitution and so on. He postponed the election
For
The
at
election
least a
should
year.
have happened in February,
Yes.
but he extended it. And people went to the courts, and the courts were firm and said, no, the president has no power to extend the election beyond his term because his term is ending on 2nd February. So how can he extend the choice of his successor to a period
For another year.
beyond his term? And the court said, no, that is unacceptable, it's wrong, the election must go ahead. And that's how the election went ahead. The Electoral Commission too took some decisions that were again, commendable regarding who can be registered to be a candidate and who can't.
But they refused Sonko, Osman.
Yeah, eventually it was because of the court, not because of the Electoral Commission. It is because he was sentenced
Yes.
by some court. This is why I'm saying that the court, yes, they fought for independence, but they were also, in other circumstances, really used in the persecution. The institutions in Senegal also struggled. They were not and could not, in the circumstances, be entirely independent, but they asserted to a good extent their will. And that helped a lot.
Yes, sir.
Don't forget the parties we have been discussing here. The party of Osman Sonko and Diomaye Faye, PASTEF, was banned.
Yes.
So it's not there. This Faye now stood as an independent.
Yeah.
But the population, in spite of not having a party, the other fellow, there was a ruling party, and so the population just went ahead with or without a party to fight.
So this, you want to say, can be copied and pasted in Uganda?
No country is similar to another. And this is another lesson that I think Africans must learn, because they tend to get excited once they see something
Exactly, that's the thing.
happening somewhere. They say, oh, now ourselves also. No, every country has its own dynamics. And we have a totally different dynamic here. Whereas in Senegal, there have been actually peaceful handovers of government, troublesome, but eventually peaceful, very many times, right from the independence president up to now. They have, and I think this is going to be possibly the 5th president.
Yeah.
They have all been peaceful transitions. In Uganda, we have never had even one transition. I have told you they have never had the military directly intervene in politics. Here it has been permanently the military since 1966 participating in the politics. And we have been living literally under military regimes. So we are dealing with different cups of tea. Also, the constitution of the population, I mean how the social demographic of the people is important. You see, in Senegal, 97% of the population are Muslims.
Yes.
And they highly observe and respect the Muslim clerics. And there are about 4 segments of these Muslim organizations that represent the whole population. So, and they therefore have strong influence in how politics is run, because all the political actors are also adherents within the formations of these clerics.
Yes.
And so there is a moderation that is there that you don't find in most other countries like ours.
There's someone who can at least advise or control the president, or there is someone they can report to.
So there is, there are different moderators. I'm simply trying to underscore the point that what happens in one country cannot be transferred to another country. There are lessons we learn.
What do you think are those lessons that they can pick
I
out
have
as
already
independents?
pointed out the need for constant vigilance of the population. That is a standard wherever you are. I've told you that people will only get what they fight for, regardless of where they are, regardless of the political formations that are there. People get what they fight for. And in order to fight, they must be organized. So how they get organized to fight for their freedom and their services and their, the rule of law and so on is critical. If they are not organized in a manner that is equal to the task they have, they will fail. And that's why I've been asking here my colleagues to reassess the way political parties, what role political parties play, how political parties themselves are organized internally and run. All these matters are critical for the changes that we are fighting for. So one is that we must have active, vigilant citizenry, and that is built too.
Yeah.
And part of such engagements where we talk to the people out there is one form of the processes that are needed to build an active and strong citizenry, mobilization and information delivery is critical. Secondly is the organization that follows that is necessary following that. And thirdly is that then they must fight. They must use their active participation in matters around them to fight for what they desire to see happening in their countries.
Okay.
So, it's been really heartwarming to see how the situation ended in Senegal, because Faye and Osman Sonko were released only 10 days to the election. And you had here the state running with all the usual state resources, but not being subdued. So it was really good. We had a delegation there which was keeping us updated about what was going on. There is a platform that was formed for opposition political parties in Africa, in which we are participating. And so we had our colleague, the Honorable Wafula Ogutu, amongst the team that came from different countries that was there monitoring the situation. And indeed, as you indicated, we were there in November last year to try and again put pressure on the government there to see that justice is served, that they release the people who were being held without just cause, so that they could be, reasonable competition, and that elections themselves could go ahead as they eventually did.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. KIZZA Besigye. 38 minutes past 12 midday. You're still watching Digital TV. This is the Interface show. We're still talking about what was happening in Senegal. Now, allow me just call for this particular video of the National Unity Platform delegation to the Buganda Kingdom. We had a few words that were spoken by the Katikkiro of Buganda, Charles Peter Mayiga. And this is what he had to say before we delve into the conversation of what is happening in Uganda's leading opposition, that is the National Unity Platform. Let's go and watch this video.
Abantu boogere bye baagala bye balowooza baleme kkubibwa ku nsolobottolo okuba baabyogedde, bakuŋŋaane boogere bye baagala bamale bagende. Kasita babeera nga babikoledde mu mateeka tebalina kye boonoonye, tebakutte madirisa g'abantu ne bagaasa. Eddembe ly'obuntu kintu kikulu, era mmwe bannabyabufuzi tubasaba mukitwale nga kikulu nnyo. Abantu okuba n'eddembe okwogera kye baagala. Tulabye nze neewuunya mu Afrika wano ng'e Senegal balonze president, naye waliwo president bamuyita Wade. Simanyi oba mumujjukira oba akyaliyo bayafa. Yatawaana ne senga oli yaliko bamutanga Sedda Senga okutwala obukulu, n'abeera mu kuvuganya gavumenti emyaka oba 2, ate naye bwe yajja mu bukulu n'ayagala okukyusa ssemateeka. N'ono abaddeko ono president abaddeko we Senegal oba ye Sale naye agezezzaako okupalapalanya mu ssemateeka. Simanyi oba mu Uganda byali bibaddewo ebyokukwata mu ssemateeka. Eddembe ly'obuntu kikulu, kubanga ebyobufuzi si muzannyo, era nze bensanga bannabyabufuzi nkibabuulira. Ebyobufuzi si muzannyo, ng'ebyobufuzi ebibi bitta amawanga ne bitta n'abantu. Ebyobufuzi nsonga nkulu ekyenkaniddawo. Kyemuba mulaba sitwagala bakazannyirizi mu byabufuzi, kubanga kazannyirizi tamanyi muwendo gw'ekyo kyalimu. Twagala abatwala ebyobufuzi nti mulimu gwa buvunaanyizibwa, ogukuza, oguzimba oba ogutta eggwanga. Mmwe abali mu kuvuganya mu kitwale nti kikulu nnyo, kubanga ekiseera bwe kirituuka ne mutwala obuyinza nammwe ne mutasa kitiibwa mu ddembe ly'obuntu, ensi mulima mugisuddeyo. Mukitandike kati. Mulina okugumiikirizigana. Honorable Ssenyonyi alina abaana 2 kati, akyali musajja muto. Nojja kulaba abaana abo nga tebafaanana naye nga baana bo. Onookikola otya? Onoobako gw'okasuka ebweru. Mulina okuyiga okugumiikirizigana. Buli omu n'agumiikiriza munne. Mulina okuyiga okusiŋŋanamu ekitiibwa. Mulina obbiyiga kati nga muli mu ludda oluvuganya, kubanga bw'otabiyiga nga tonnafuna buyinza ate olwo bw'onoobufuna onooba ogambwako. Buli asobya tebatta mutte. Buli asobya batta mutte. Mulina okubiteeka mu nkola. Nze mukulu wammwe nga Katikkiro wa Buganda, nyina ebbeetu okukibagamba. Rashida bw'asobya mumuyite. Mukyala wange Aisha bw'asobya Kabanda anti Wambogo, mumuyite mutuule mwogere. Bwe muneemanyiza okwevuma ekinaddako kwegwa mu bulago. Bwe muneegwa mu bulago nga tebibalemye, anti agabwa agerwanya gaba gaagala kukola ki amagezi bwe mbamba wadde malungi mu nkubira engalo.
Is this the best way to have handled this particular crisis in that particular political formation?
Well, I think I have previously responded to this, that internal dynamics of a political process or a political party are best commented on with full knowledge of what is going on within there, which frankly I am not privy to. And would not be prudent to start giving marks on how people are handling situations. Because I've heard arguments about what has gone on inside there, which meetings were held, when they were held, how they were held, and what was said in those meetings, that frankly I cannot, because some have denied things happening, others, say, for example, I heard that Puga had accepted that he made a mistake in a meeting.
Which is on record.
Whose record?
Yeah, it's on record. The meeting was minuted. There are minutes that confirm he accepted and he apologized for what he did.
I haven't read those minutes. I haven't, even when I read, they will be contested. Minutes are also contested. That's why minutes have to be confirmed.
There are people who were in the meeting.
Yes, and you see people are in the meeting, and each one, even when they are not, even as we talk here, I can say something and you understand it differently from what I meant. And so, commenting about internal systems of a delicate matter like that should be done with a lot of prudence. And I wouldn't like to be a judge of how they are managing their internal processes. What I have tried to do in cautioning them is that, you see, the internal problems that we have, or have internal party problems that we have, or have the same source. That is the one capturing who captured the country. That's the same source that you will trace the problems in UPC between Akena and Otunu, or the leaderships of both. It's the same source that you will trace the problems in DP. It is the same source that you will trace the problems in UPC. And I dare say it's the same source that you can trace problems in NUP. And therefore, rather than dwell on trying to deal with the problems that were caused, because that's what we all try to do, to sort out because they keep on creating more. You solve this, they create more. We should, not just as parties, but as a country, deal with the source of the problems.
Before we deal with the source of the problem,
yes.
These people are mature adults. They are sane people.
You see,
you cannot say that there is an influence of other person.
Yes, you see, for example, I have told you that the whole of that parliament is corrupt. And people go there through corruption and stay there through corruption. I have stated this long before. So dwelling on the corruption in Parliament is dwelling on the symptom. What created Parliament to be as corrupt as it is today? It is the system that has been deliberately constructed. And it's not just Parliament. Anybody who is in politics, actually, electoral politics today, is involved in a corrupt system. Because there is nobody who gets into an office, elected office, without paying. That is corruption. If you have to pay to get into an office, it's corruption. And it continues because that payment will have to be recouped somehow. So it continues. So it is structural corruption. Corruption is structural. I have said, and it doesn't matter which party they come from, people in Parliament are corrupt. All those committees of Parliament are corrupt. And they are corrupt for a reason. Because it has been constructed that Parliament actually becomes the executive also. They must buy ambulances to deal with healthcare in their constituencies. That's not the work of Parliament ordinarily. So you must look for money to buy ambulances and to put in fuel and to transport patients.
It's because that's the only way the people will feel that you are their leader. It's just the system.
But precisely. So I've said that a system has been constructed which is a corruption system. It's a system. Somebody asked me whether NUP can end corruption in Parliament. I said it can't. Because it's a whole system. It's the only way to end the system of corruption in Uganda is the revolution. It will not be stopped by tinkering with the edges.
Are you trying to
dealing with whether it's Anita, whether it's Mpuga, or whether it's somebody else? It won't stop.
Are you trying to blanket the corruption of the opposition in the entire grand scheme of things? Because
the opposition,
the
opposition,
we think them as a saint, at least. They are supposed to
the
change.
opposition, and I beg the forgiveness of any sprinkling of people, whether on the opposition or government, that may not be thieves. I really beg your indulgence. Forgive me if you are there. But I'm talking about the structural corruption, deliberately built corruption as a system of government. So if you have that situation and then you get diverted into trying to sort out who is corrupt and dealing with who is corrupt in that mess of corruption, you are missing the point, because you spend a lot of energy. He is upfront that, he has a corrupt system. He thinks it's wonderful. You have seen he fight the Inspector General. I don't know why he appointed the Inspector General of Government to start with. When the Inspector General of Government said, let's deal with this. He said, no. Don't scare them. They will run. They will take away our money. Leave them. So,
But before we even talk about that, because he even recently came out and defended the Speaker of Parliament.
Absolutely.
But before
he has to.
Because
it's his system.
Let's first look at you, the people who Ugandans have tried to embrace, support. A case in point for the National Unity Platform. This was a protest vote. They even voted people they did not know about, but it was just a symbol of saying, we want change today. But these people that Ugandans have tried their level best to support have disappointed them. A case in point of FDC, a case in point of NUP.
You see, again,
where should the Ugandan run?
Again.
Because at the end of the day, you talk about organization.
Again, please understand.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the people have supported NUP, but NUP has not gotten to where it should be.
Yes, sir.
the power, does not have power. NUP does not have power at all, has nothing. So, looking at it as the solution is missing the point. The point must be that the fight must continue. It did not end up with the election. And that's where we have missed the point, thinking that after election, now let's wait for another election. No. The fight has not ended. So looking at NUP, which has no power, what can it do? It can't do anything. Or looking at FDC that has some 30 members of parliament in a house of 500 people, what can it do? So and even if they had many people in parliament, I've told you that parliament itself has no power. It's just a ultimbe. It's just a veil. The power is in the family of Mr. Museveni. That's where the power resides. That's what must be dealt with. Until that family is dismantled, the power, at least in that family, is dismantled and goes back to the population. Let's not waste our time looking for whom they have bribed.
Doctor.
So, I am grateful to all of those who are watching this program and who are sending in messages. Thank you very much. First of all, you must separate, emotions with what ought to be done. There are many things that anger us, annoy us, and you want to, get somebody and, tear him to pieces. But you must, especially if, for leaders, you need to be careful in how you manage any situation. You see, there is a lot of comparison, for example, with the people who take money from Museveni and what happened in FDC. Even when I was party leader of FDC, there were many people who were taking money from Museveni amongst my leaders. And I have had time to say that at some point, I would really feel rather discouraged looking around a table of our leaders and wondering, whether it's meaningful to discuss how to fight people that are represented in the meeting. So it's tricky. But you have to pick your wars, If this is what I spent time before the break dwelling on. Because these people who are corrupt on the table, even if you fight them off the table, others will be recruited still on the table because the recruiter is still there. You will never win that war of being diverted, fighting with the corrupt people in our systems. That's why the focus, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, if it's very harmful that you shouldn't do anything, but the focus must remain on where it is coming from, because it will continue coming. It will not stop. What was the problem in FDC is that it now started at the very top. In other words, the whole institution was now being taken. And you see, I would never even have had any problem with them if they brought the matter of whether to cooperate with Museveni in a meeting and said, by the way, what they were telling me in private, saying, we have tried this, it has failed, we have tried this, it has failed. So now let's try cooperating, you know. It's a position that can be managed democratically within an institution. You discuss it, and if the majority say, okay, that's the way we want to go, then they go. Those who feel that they can't go with them, they make decisions on how to manage themselves. But they didn't. They conspiratorially went and negotiated on behalf of the institution, you know, and that is very different from having a leadership that is stable and not compromised, and having problems within it. As I have said, they will be everywhere. These problems will be everywhere. If they attack the top, then the institution is finished. If those problems get to the very top, then the institution is finished. Otherwise, that's why it's important for all parties to interrogate how they are structured and how people get into their structures. Because I have said many times that political parties are supposed to be open to everybody, and, you know, public institutions where you come in and become free to seek leadership and so on and so forth. But in a dictatorship like ours, if you don't take very serious steps to manage how people get in and move up and down, the dictatorship will come in and take over the institution. And that's what has been happening. So how institutions, democratic institutions, ostensibly democratic institutions, function in a military regime is something that we have to very carefully work out.
Then how, yes, you're talking about that, and that is what I want to just talk about with you. How then do you think these political leaders, or the likes of the Kyagulanyis, the Besigye'S, who are leaders of these top organizations, how can they really fight these evils? For example, the corruption, without coming off as they are so extreme? Because you look at what Kyagulanyi is literally doing, one would say morally it is right. He has to stand up for a cause like corruption. We are fighting corruption. It's one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest problem we have in Uganda. How then do you think handle it?
No, I'm saying corruption where it is found needs to be fought. And I don't think that people, even who are talking about what is happening in Nup, there is anybody who is saying corruption should not be dealt with. The only voices I have heard are how the processes of doing it have been managed, not whether issues of corruption should be dealt with.
So do you still working with such people who have
and the internal processes of how they manage this is what I was telling you, is what I have desisted from getting mixed in.
Okay. Because
I don't have full information about what has been done within NUP. But what I must continue to point out to NUP and all other parties is that these corruption matters are symptoms of the big problem. So yes, manage them as you may, but don't lose the main focus being on where it is coming from. Because the symptoms will keep on coming. You won't end them unless you deal with the source. You can remove Mpuga, another Mpuga will crop up. Yeah. You can remove.
Because you're also hearing some issues about the current leader of opposition.
So this is why I'm saying that the major focus must be on where it is coming from.
How do you reconcile and unite now these voices back to sanity? Because as you're going to
maybe before we go there, there again, the voices of those who cause us problems come in all kinds of tones. What the prize Mr. Museveni wants to get in doing whatever he does is first and foremost
Yes, sir.
to divide and cause conflict amongst those who are supposed to fight him. That is his first prize. Divide. And they will use every opportunity to widen a gap between those who are fighting for or supposed to fight for change. Even amongst the callers, I heard the voice of saying the old people support corruption. We must deal with them, we the young people. And that is a theme that I hear very regularly. Again, dividing the old and the young. As if, you know, there is a clear line that you can draw between who is old and who is young, first of all. I don't know where that line is drawn. Because I even hear people who are 50 saying they are young. You're approaching the life expectancy of Uganda. Saying we young people.
Now they've changed. They say is the one who's uniting the young and the old.
So the young and old, first of all, is debatable. But even more importantly, corruption knows no young or old. Actually knows even no gender. Women are corrupt, men are corrupt, young are corrupt, old are corrupt. But when you start using, you know, identity, saying, you know, we the young, or we from this area, or we from, you know, this religion, or we know that you are playing into the hands of that one who wants to cause divisions and keep on causing conflict amongst people in order to maintain his control on the country. So whether young or old, corruption is corruption. And as I have said, they are young, very corrupt young people. In fact, Uganda is a young country.
Yes.
70% below 30 or so, and they are the corrupt. So it's not an age thing, and it will not be dealt with unless we end the capture of the country and its resources by the family of Mr. Museveni. So we must mobilize and first deal with that. As long as you don't have priority in what you are doing, you want to move. You see? So if we were, even if we, you know, you can injure yourself in the struggle, you can get all kinds of problems, but continue focused on ending it. Then you come back and deal with the, you know, it's like, you see, when there is a saying, I think in many languages, that when the kite is looming in the air, the kite, you know, you don't start, you know, disciplining the chicks that are eating your maize or something in your compound. They are doing bad to you, all right? But the kite will take them. If you don't first of all fight off the kite, then you can come and discipline the chicken.
Yes, sir.
So the point here is the priority of where the greater danger comes from. The greater danger, what is causing all this corruption, and it is the system. I've said it is the system of governance. So it will be everywhere. It will be in the parties, it will be in the religious organizations, it will be everywhere. It is the system that we must uproot.
Okay, Doctor, before we leave that particular issue, I have a video by a gentleman yesterday who won an achievement award, that is Professor George Wilson Kanyehamba, and in his speech he had something that he wanted to tell Dr. KIZZA Besigye. Here, let's listen to it.
A message for Dr. Besigye now.
KIZZA Besigye, I love him. Not because he's from KIZZA, but because he's a very active and potential president after Museveni. I see him as the president of his own party and a potential candidate for the presidency next round.
2020.
Having said that, he's making a mistake by keeping quiet. I gather he has got a program on media which is often followed. But he doesn't say whether he still wants to be president of Uganda.
What do you want him to say?
I want him to say that now. That I want to be a presidential candidate in 2026 or wherever, if he's afraid of Museveni.
What does that cure, sir?
Pardon?
What does it cure if he informs the public as early as now, in your view? Or what does he lose if he doesn't inform them as early as now? It's either or.
You see, I know some Barokole. And they believe in the Bible as I do. I'm a Christian. But don't hide your candle and the basket. Show it to the public. Let the public know you want to be president. So for me, the only criticism I have about KIZZA Besigye is keeping his supporters waiting to say I will be a presidential candidate either in 26 or after 26.
KIZZA Besigye, you've heard the message of the old man.
Yeah, Professor George Kanyehamba is, an old colleague. We served together in government. I appeared before him when he was Supreme Court judge in the presidential petition of 2006, in which he made an outstanding judgment of that petition. I have the greatest respect for him. He's a uniquely intelligent fellow. Even in his old age, his mind is sharp. But what he's saying about me declaring that I want to be a presidential candidate rather surprises me, because indeed him having presided over a petition that we filed in 2006 would know that the massive injustices that any candidate who comes up faces are such that, being a candidate does not in itself offer a solution. I'm wondering why he is not alive to that fact, that just being a candidate in a massively rigged process. Moreover, where the courts have since been totally taken over compared to what they were during his times. Because during his time, and he has written himself extensively about what happened in 2006, how the court was influenced, unduly influenced by Mr. Museveni. He has written, and has since, Mr. Museveni has since appointed all the judges that replaced him to make sure that no Kaija's type of judge ever enters the courts. So there is nowhere to run to. Even after the massive injustice, it does not make any sense running to court, as I did twice. So to that extent, I am sorry that I will continue to disappoint Professor Kaija's by not, looking at 2026 as a solution.
Okay. You're not only disappointing Professor Kaija's, you're disappointing a girl or a lady called Angela Nachiranda. Not only you, I also want him as a presidential candidate come 2026. He's the only hope we have in Uganda to liberate us. Please, Doctor, kindly look into our request. I think the request has been denied. Doctor, let's go into the other issue. You mentioned the first family, and as we're speaking today, the CDF is General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who is former Commander Land Forces, Air Forces, but he's also the first son. What do you think of the appointment to CDF of Mr. Museveni's son?
Well, I think it's a good thing that General Muhoozi has been placed in the office of the CDF, because it at least eliminates, lack of clarity that was otherwise there. Anybody who cared to follow what goes on would have known that he was the CDF all along. It could not have been Mbadi. Mbadi could not have been a CDF. First of all, you remember where Mbadi came from.
Yes.
He was an ADC.
Yes.
of Mr. Museveni under SFC. So his going there did not mean that Muhoozi would take orders from him. He couldn't. So I was actually pitying General Mbadi. I sympathized with him. Being in an office he knew he had no power in. Is a terrible thing, especially if it is a command position. We have been here talking about General Muhoozi violating the army law, violating the constitution, until even his father, General Museveni, had to apologize to Kenyans on his behalf for his, transgressions. So where was Mbadi in all this? Because he is a serving officer, he was under General Mbadi. Have you ever heard Mbadi raise a finger anywhere, say anything? So he was not there. But there was confusion that there is a CDF. Even the people in Kasese, where Mbadi hails from, I was seeing some excited that they have a CDF, whereas not, you know, because he would go to Kasese escorted with, you know, these pickups escorting supposedly a CDF, but when he's actually a Semufu, you know, Semufu is, you know, the what do you call this?
Statue?
No, the thing you put in the garden.
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow, you know, like a scarecrow seated in the CDF vehicle written on with the, you know, CDF.
But that is actually
CDF.
worrying, what you're saying.
It is the truth. I mean, Mbadi was never a CDF. So the CDF, the real CDF, has sat in the chair, which is, I think, reasonable that at least they have eliminated now pretenses. The pretenses are gone. He is where he is supposed to be. You see, the real CDF up to today is also not Muhoozi. From 1981, when the National Resistance Army was formed, its commander, from the time it was formed, is Museveni, up to today.
The chief in command.
You can call him commander-in-chief. Commander-in-chief is supposed to be a civilian, actually. The post of commander-in-chief is a civilian. The commander of NRA, up to today, is Museveni. And that's why even the chairman of the High Command and the members of the High Command have now been put in law.
Yes. They are designated, even their names are there in the
Yes,
Constitution.
they are part of the law.
Yes.
So the commander of the forces is the one who created them, Mr. Museveni. He is up to date, and I believe until he dies, he will be the commander of the forces he created. He is the commander. The two I see, the second in command or deputy CDF, is not Ekding or what was it?
Okiding, I think.
Okiding or something I heard who is now designated.
Yeah.
The deputy CDF is General Saleh. And that is why General Saleh was in Gulu to
Preside over. the
preside over the taking over of the seat of CDF. So General Saleh is the real deputy CDF. The CDF is
In a way, Ugandan thought
the
Saleh
CDF
left
is
power in
Museveni.
89.
The CDF is Museveni himself. So Muhoozi is the third in line, now seated at the helm of the forces as a day-to-day commander. But of course, you know, that is the reality. So the Mbadi was a pretense that has now gone away. And what was dubbed a reshuffle in the government, its main purpose was to take Mbadi there.
Before you go there, what is the problem with Muhoozi Kainerugaba becoming the CDF? Is there a problem with the son of the president commanding the forces? He's a full general. He has served in the military. Is there a problem?
The problem is what I have already described, that he comes into that. The reason he was the CDF even before he was named is because the family, the reason Saleh, although he is no longer in the force, the reason he is the one who sits the CDFs on their seat is because he's the brother of General Museveni. So the family rule is the problem, not where the different members of the family are. You see, let me tell you, the capture of Uganda is maintained by two things: control of the economy and resources on the one hand, control of the forces on the other. Look at control of the economy. You will find the real finance minister is still Saleh. Of course, even in the constitution, it is Museveni.
He's the chief minister of finance.
Yes, yes, even in the constitution. But he's too IC again. It's not KAIJA and all these, the other Mabati thief or what, it's not those. The second in command in the finance is Saleh. And he's also the head of wealth creation. He's the one who oversees
Operation
wealth creation in the whole country. So what was NADS, what was what, he is the head of wealth creation. Then you have Rwabogo, who is also there in the economy.
He's the head of exports.
I don't know whether he's head of what, but he's there in the economic picture. You'll find the brother, the son-in-law is also somewhere there in
The exports.
yes, in the economy. So the economy is one arm of the state, of the family capture of the state. The other one is the security, where now, as I have pointed out, it is clear that all these people, you know, the Rwerus and all these people who were hanging in there were window dressing. Now Rweru has been taken, I don't know, to
He's
be
a senior presidential
I don't
advisor.
know where, and Mbadi is taken somewhere where the others all went, the other Muhozi where he went, Aronda where he went. All this, you know, it's just an evacuation of the seat of control. So that is what is happening. So whether it is a good thing, I don't know. Whether Muhozi therefore now being substantively there, so that where there is now nobody who is, because even when he was not there, people in the army would have to go to him to intervene in other situations. People still go to Saleh to intervene in the military. So now that he's there, hopefully, at least there will be no maneuvers of people looking for solutions.
One would say, since he's there now, he's not going to be politicking anymore because of the office of the Chief of Defense Forces.
No, he will. He will. And in fact, I think I read somewhere that he said, no, I think it was Saleh who was installing him, saying he has to secure the politics, among other things which he said he has to secure.
But he also said he's now back for good in the army.
Yes, and he has to secure the politics. And that's exactly what the military does. It is to say, that's why the family needs the military to secure their hold on power. And that's why, you know, the military court martial, for example, is used in the politics. Whoever they want to detain, because the civilian courts are more watched and the lawyers there, the judges are more constrained by the rules and laws, and so they take you to chairman of the military court-martial, who is the direct nani.
Speaking of that, I have here a document by a gentleman who's called Luther Ferdinand. Luther Ferdinand was an activist who was incarcerated in 2021 February. For a full year, he was incarcerated. Now, from the time they incarcerated him, the charge that was put against him was he was wearing military fatigue. Now, Ferdinand has been reporting to the military court-martial for the last 2 years, and they've never listened to his case. If you can see here, the gentleman on camera, you can see the times this gentleman has been going to the Makindye court-martial and reporting, but up to today, nothing really has been, there is no case that has been heard of him or anything of the sort. You can see the reporting, there is this page has actually been filled by reporting literally every time. This other page too also has been filled. He has been reporting to the military court-martial, but none. We're even now on the last particular page. You can see that it's also soon getting full, but this gentleman has not, his case has not actually been heard. And this is 2 years, Doctor. 2 years.
So this is why I'm saying that the military is to secure the politics. You may have realized that the first action as a minister of Baram Barugahara was to appeal to Museveni to release the captives in the military cells, you know.
The NUP members.
Yes. And they paraded one who was, saying, we are going to help you, that they are now coming to become activists in NRM to help Museveni and right from the prison, and that they should all be released. And he said, yes, I will. Except those who burn tires. Why should anybody who burn tires?
Except those who killed.
Yes,
these ones,
yes.
okay.
Why would anybody, if he was accused of burning tires, why would he be in prison for years, not tried, no bail? Why? The people have been there for 3 years, no trial, no bail. He really unconstitutionally detained. Because the Constitution does not allow anybody whose case has not been heard. If it's a capital offense, who has not yet been committed for trial, the law does not allow. So they are actually illegally detained. But now, they are saying, we can free them because this. Aid of General Muhoozi, and of course all that is the optics, because Barugahara has been promoting General Muhoozi to be the next president. That has been his song, which has earned him being a minister, who has now asked the CDF and his brother, the commander-in-chief, to now release NUP people so that they come and help the politics, you see. So all this is nothing but family rule and how it sustains itself.
You've hinted on it.
And really it's shameful, you know. First of all, this Luther Ferdinand is not a soldier.
Yes.
What is he doing in the UPDF prisons? Even if he was putting on a beret or whatever.
And there is evidence to suggest he wasn't. He was actually, because everything was
You
taped,
see,
he was on video.
even if he was putting on a beret, try him. In the civilian courts, there is nothing that stops him being tried in the civilian courts. He's a civilian. Try him in the civilian courts, But all of this, trying to, take civilians into the court-martial is to get them away into their dungeons that they control fully. Because the chairman of the military court-martial is a deployment by Mr. Museveni. is the one who sends. So if he's the complainant, he is the judge. How can you have justice? You know, and so it's really sad, you know, to see a person like this, Ferdinand. He will never work for himself, even if he gets bail, because he is ever reporting to the military court. This is abuse of power, abuse of the institution of UPDF, and I don't expect that General Muhoozi will do anything about this, because this is part of the, unless, of course, he goes.
That is the photo of Oluta Ferdinand, as you can see, when he was being arrested, even before. You can look.
He's the one on the ground.
He's hitting. It's like a doll that shows President Museveni.
Okay. He's the one with the megaphone.
Yes, an effigy of President Museveni, and trying to say this person has been corrupt, and trying to hit that effigy of President.
So his
Museveni.
real crime is demonstrating against corruption.
Because you can see there is no beret anywhere.
That was his real crime. He was demonstrating against corruption by beating the effigy of
President Museveni.
If of
Something
whoever
that
it
looks
was.
like that.
You know, so
Yeah.
you know, the family rule
Yes, sir.
is a cancer, that a terrible cancer that affects our country.
Okay.
And we must excise it and save the country.
There's something you hinted on, that the Mbadis, when they leave command, they're given a certain ministry. And this is the case. There is a militarization of Ugandan system. The permanent secretaries, now you go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, starting from the head is a soldier, permanent secretary is a soldier, deputy state minister is a soldier. Literally, there is a way the system has been militarized. Is this a way, is there a way this contributes to the sustenance of this government and maybe the Muhoozi agenda? What do you think?
Absolutely. This is what I'm
How
saying. So first of all, of course, people who are no longer useful in the military service, or who are simply no longer trusted,
Yeah.
but have very important positions, they have high ranks, they have influence within the military. Part of the way of managing them is taking them out of the military into other areas. So partly it's cleaning up those they don't want in the military. It's not just looking for control where they take them.
Oh.
It's not only looking for control where they take them. It's also cleansing the military of those that they are not comfortable with,
Oh, okay.
and deploying them into areas that are not, you know, but maintaining a control on them. You know, you are Katumba, you were the CDF, they are maybe not comfortable with you being CDF, but they don't want to retire you in case you turn out to be like the troublesome Besigye'S. So in order to keep control on you, you remain a serving officer who can be taken to the court martial and they take you to a civilian role in violation of the law, of course, because as I have pointed out, the government of Uganda is an NRM government, no doubt. It's the NRM that formed the government. So to take a serving officer to serve in the NRM government violates the law, violates the constitution. But it's done with impunity. And you have nowhere to run. This is what I was telling you.
Exactly.
So, I think the clarity of appointing General Muhoozi in UPDF is good for UPDF for everybody to be clear about the command chain. It's clear. Now nobody has to sit in the CDF office while sitting with one buttock.
Speaking of sitting in that seat, did you realize I think like a month ago, there was power that was extended from the office of the president to the CDF through the UPDF Establishment Act. There's power that was mandated to the office of the CDF. He can take up some decisions without even the consent of the president and report later.
Well, I think the importance of that establishment was overplayed. I don't think that it really has that serious importance. Like I have pointed out to you, ordinarily the office of the CDF is a very, very powerful office within the law, within the establishment. Always there is an establishment. Within the establishment, it is the head of the military and all its arms, whether it's the Air Force, whether it's what, is the chief of all the defense forces, Air Force, Marines, armor, artillery, all.
So every person who holds a gun is commanded by the CDF?
No, within the military.
Oh.
That is the Air Force, the land forces, the marine units, the special forces that may be there, like SFC and other groups. All of them are under the Chief of Defense Forces. Of course, he doesn't control the police.
How are the Saracens and the police here?
No, the police is controlled by the Police Act.
Okay.
So the CDF is under the UPDF Act. The police is controlled by the Police Act and is headed by the IGP. The prisons is headed by the Commissioner General of Prisons under the Prisons Act.
Okay.
The other groups of Saracen, those are under civilian, those are under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. They are licensed to hold guns.
What does this speak of the Ugandan people? Because news came and it's business as usual. Nobody has really done anything.
Which news?
The news of the giving the position of CDF.
What did you want Ugandans to
How
do?
can a sitting president give a son such an office and the whole country keeps quiet?
But this is what I was telling you, that it's not the first time it's happening. His wife, with whom he sleeps on the bed, is the minister of the most important ministry of education. So his daughter is a senior presidential advisor. In fact, everybody in the family is a senior person in the government. So the nepotism that is displayed is not in question. It cannot be. It could not only be questioned by the CDF. It's all over. The question is, what do you do? There it is. What do you do? And there is nothing you can do because Parliament is totally taken over. The courts are totally taken over. Even civil society that would be making noise is increasingly consumed. So this is why the solution to all this cannot be anything short of a revolution. And that's what Ugandans must focus on, how the population turns the tables. And the population must turn the tables. And they have every right to do so. This is why we have been focusing the country on Article 3 of the Constitution. Fortunately, I think it was maybe by the intervention of God, that the Constituent Assembly created that article in the Constitution, which talks about when constitutional governance fails,
Yes.
what happens? That is the article that addresses that. Then the people have been empowered by the Constitution to do everything in their power
Yes.
to turn the tables. That's what Article 3 of Uganda's Constitution is about. And it's a duty. It's a duty. It's not something that is, just a responsibility that, as other citizen responsibility. This is a command of the Constitution. So the command of the Constitution is to you and every Ugandan to do everything in your power to return Uganda to constitutional governance.
Okay, and it actually uses the word shall, which is an infallible command.
Yeah.
Let's first read a couple of messages. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We are coming to the end of this particular discussion. We have like 8 minutes to go. I'll just hear in from Andy Omunyigara. You said, Dear President KIZZA Besigye, hear our voices. We shall overcome at one point. Coleman Tayewa, I wish other politicians could learn from Dr. Besigye. Yaga Prof Yakugambira, and he also laughs. Salongo Kamanyire Daniel, Dr. KIZZA Besigye yanewunyisa okuvaako okutaguza kw'ekibiina kyaffe ekya FDC mu kifo ky'okudda n'atereeza kati kyonna kyasasuse. Mujabi David, Jambo Sir, retired Colonel, did you still want to serve in UPDF, or retired Sergeant Mujabi David Jingo Eziba, I think, or retired Sergeant Mujabi David Jingo Eziba in Kasanje Town Council? Novelist Kabale Eric, you are watching also live. Thank you so much for watching. Ricky Peter Nabende, salute Dr. Besigye. Daisy G says, these bushmen who fought in Luwero have pain because are not allowed also to lead the country. Museveni brings in his family. He says Mbadi used to come Kasese people since their king was under arrest. After releasing him, don't need him anymore. Francis Seblime, Semufus Keakro, he laughs at that. Alma King Ronaldo, thank you so much for watching. So when it comes in the ballot 2026 and you stay in your comfort zones of social media, then it will be useless as well. Tugume Eddie, long live Dr. Kano Besigye. Namara Naris, you're watching, long live Dr. Kano, that is Ivo Twin Party. I think I'll just end with a comment here. Let me see. Sebugenyi bwa nsanafu. We need to put everything aside and unite and stop the Rwandan Hima 2C imperialism. That is far-fetched. Doctor, there's a couple of the messages we have for now.
Yeah, again, my gratitude to all those who are tuned into this program and who are always active in sending in feedback on what is going on. Most of the messages, I think, have been not requiring a response. There was a caller who wanted to know whether I still wanted to be serving in
the UPDF.
No, unfortunately not, because I never set out to be a career soldier. I set out to be a career doctor.
Yes.
I was sucked into fighting and soldiering because of the problems the country was in.
Yes, sir.
I thought by taking up guns and fighting, we could return the country to democratic governance, where people have the power and leaders are their servants. When we came into government, I started realizing that that was not the case. That actually we were now being captured also. and even the military was being captured. And I protested. Before I left the UPDF, I wrote a document. Some people confused it with what was published. The document I wrote about the politics generally, which led to my being taken for court-martial. But the document I wrote on the UPDF has never been published. It was intended to talk about the mismanagement that was dangerous, which I could see in the military, which touched on how people were being recruited. And I have time and again pointed out that, for example, General Muhoozi, now the CDF, entered the UPDF illegally, not following the law. He's now its CDF, although he came into it illegally. So, and there were many such cases, how people were chosen to be trained while in service, that there was no system for people to be chosen to be trained, that there was no system for people to be chosen for promotions or even deployments, and so on and so forth. And that this was dangerous for a force that you are talking about professionalizing and regularizing.
Which is still happening up to
Because
today.
a regular force depends on regularity of its actions, that you know what will happen if you have done A, B, C, then this follows. Though that's what regularity means. Either you follow orders, regulations, laws and commands and so on, which was observed in total neglect. So, you know, having experienced that,
As you conclude.
tried to interfere, to complain about it and failed. I wanted to leave, but I could not leave. I applied to retire, and I could not be retired for, I think, about 6 years. I was held against my will to retire from the UPDF.
As you
There
conclude,
was
sir.
there have been again comments about what will happen in 2026. I think what should happen now. Nobody should think about waiting for 2026 in order to stand up and be counted. The earlier we deal with this massive crisis of governance,
Yes, sir.
the better we have a chance of resetting the country with less pain.
Okay.
The longer it takes to end this crisis of state capture, the more painful it will be to reset.
Yes, sir.
And that's why my clarion call to all of you is, please mobilize all those around you. Get them to understand the dire situation in which we are, the state of captivity in which we are. Organize them into a formation that you can join with others to resist. And let us resist now. Article 3 of our Constitution. Thank you for giving us your time as always. Time will never be quite enough to deal with all the issues we would want to deal with. But the fact that our country is in crisis of governance is not in question. What we were discussing here, people who can't be paid their mega salaries in spite of doing work, the poverty that looms all over the country, the joblessness of our young people, the lack of services, healthcare crisis, education crisis, infrastructure crisis of the roads and so on. It is all glaring for everybody to see. It will not change unless we change the whole system. This corruption people are singing about will not end until the whole system is overhauled. Let's get on with it. Thank you very much. Until next week, God bless you.
Pleasure is ours, Dr.